Hello, dear English learners, and welcome to today's podcast episode. I'm really excited to talk about a topic that many of us can relate to. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you can easily understand English, whether it's reading or listening? But when it comes to speaking, you freeze up. You know the words. You understand what's being said. But when you try to speak, the words just don't come out the way you want them to. If this sounds like you, don't worry. You're not alone. This is a common challenge that many English learners face. It can be frustrating, and sometimes it might even feel like you're not making any progress. But I want to tell you right now, understanding English is a huge achievement. It means you've already built a solid foundation. The next step is to turn that understanding into confident speaking. And the good news is, with the right approach, you can absolutely do this. In today's episode, we're going to explore why many learners understand English but struggle to speak it. I'll share some insights into why this happens, and most importantly, I'll give you some simple, practical tips to help you improve your speaking skills. Whether you're learning English for work, travel, or simply to improve your communication, this podcast is for you. By the end of this episode, you'll feel more confident about speaking English, and you'll have a clear plan to make progress every day. So, if you've ever thought, I understand English, but I can't speak it, stay tuned. We're going to talk about how to turn that frustration into action and take your speaking skills to the next level. Personal story or real-life example. Let me share a story with you about a friend of mine, Sarah, who went through this exact challenge. Sarah was an amazing student. She had been studying English for many years and had a deep understanding of grammar, vocabulary, and reading comprehension. She could read books in English, watch movies without subtitles, and understand everything that was being said. But when it came to speaking, well, that's when things got tricky. I remember the first time Sarah and I went to a cafe together. She was excited about practicing her English, so I suggested that we order our coffee in English. She agreed, but when the moment came, she couldn't speak. She stood there looking at the barista, but her mouth went dry and the words didn't come out. She could hear the words in her head, but she couldn't make herself say them. I could tell she was frustrated, and I asked her, "What's going on? Why don't you just say it?" Sarah looked at me and said, "I know what I want to say. I understand everything you're saying, but when it's my turn to speak, I get nervous. I'm scared I'll make a mistake or that I won't sound good." This is a very common feeling among learners who have spent time studying English but haven't had much practice speaking. For Sarah, it wasn't that she didn't know how to speak, it was that she was afraid to make mistakes. She didn't want to sound wrong or unpolished. Her fear of speaking was holding her back, even though she had a great understanding of the language. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. I've been in Sarah's shoes. Maybe you've studied English for a long time and you can understand everything, but when it's your turn to speak, you freeze. It can be so frustrating. You want to express yourself clearly, but you worry about how you sound. Maybe you're even worried about what others will think. I want to remind you, though, that these feelings are completely normal. You're not alone in this. In fact, I've talked to many learners who face the same issue, including some advanced students. They understand everything perfectly, but speaking feels like a mountain they can't climb. I've been there too. feeling like I could understand everything. But the minute I needed to say something, I felt stuck. For Sarah, it took time and a change in mindset to overcome her fear. One of the things that helped her was realizing that making mistakes is part of learning. Every time she made a mistake, she learned something new. She started practicing with me more, speaking in simple sentences, even when she wasn't sure if they were perfect. Slowly, she became more confident. Over time, Sarah started speaking English more often. She joined a speaking club where learners came together to practice. She began talking to strangers in English, even when she wasn't sure if her grammar was perfect. Her confidence grew, and she became better and better. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about practicing, making mistakes, and learning from them. Today, Sarah is one of the most confident English speakers I know. She travels around the world, speaks with people from all over, and has used English to build her career. Looking back, she says that the most important change she made was shifting her focus from being perfect to just speaking. The more she practiced, the more natural it became. She realized that speaking was about communication, not perfection. I share Sarah's story because it's not unusual to feel like you understand English, but can't speak it. In fact, this is one of the most common challenges for English learners. But just like Sarah, you can overcome this challenge. It takes practice, patience, and a willingness to make mistakes. The more you practice, the more comfortable you will become. And one day, you'll find that speaking English becomes as easy as understanding it. Why does this happen? If you're someone who understands English but struggles to speak it, you may be wondering, why is this happening? It's a frustrating feeling because you've put in the work. You've learned the vocabulary. You've understood the grammar, and you can read and listen without much trouble. Yet, when it's time to speak, the words seem to get stuck, or you can't express yourself the way you want to. The truth is, this is a very common experience for language learners, and it happens for a few important reasons. Let's explore some of the main reasons why understanding English and speaking it don't always go hand in hand. 1. Lack of practice. One of the most significant reasons why many learners struggle to speak, even if they understand English, is simply the lack of practice. Speaking is a skill, just like any other, and it needs to be practiced regularly to improve. When we don't practice speaking, it's easy to get nervous and not feel confident when we actually need to use the language in real-life situations. Most learners spend a lot of time reading, listening, and studying grammar, which are all important skills, but they don't spend as much time speaking. Speaking requires us to produce words quickly and respond in real time. Unlike listening, where you can take your time to understand, speaking often requires us to think on the spot, which can feel overwhelming if we haven't had enough practice. The more we speak, the more comfortable and automatic it becomes. If you only practice speaking once in a while, you might find yourself freezing up when it's time to speak. But if you make speaking a daily habit, you'll find that it becomes easier and more natural over time. 2. Fear of making mistakes. Another reason many learners struggle to speak, even though they understand English, is the fear of making mistakes. This fear is often what holds us back from practicing. We might worry that we'll make a grammatical error, mispronounce a word, or say something wrong that will embarrass us. But here's the thing. Making mistakes is part of the learning process. Every learner makes mistakes, and it's the mistakes that help us improve. When we try speaking and get things wrong, that's when we get the opportunity to learn and grow. Yet many learners feel embarrassed about making mistakes, which stops them from speaking in the first place. This fear is completely natural. It's a feeling that most language learners experience, especially at the beginning stages. However, it's important to understand that no one expects you to speak perfectly. In fact, the more mistakes you make, the better you'll get at speaking. The key is to embrace mistakes and see them as valuable learning opportunities. Every time you speak, you'll improve. And eventually, those mistakes will become less frequent. 3. Thinking too much. Another reason why speaking feels harder than understanding is because we often overthink when we speak. We try to build the perfect sentence in our minds before we say anything. We ask ourselves, is this the right word? Is my grammar correct? What if I say something wrong? All this thinking creates pressure, and pressure makes speaking more difficult. When you listen or read, you're absorbing information. It's passive, but speaking is active. You have to recall vocabulary, think of grammar rules, and say everything in real time. That's a lot. And when we put too much pressure on ourselves to be perfect, we end up freezing or avoiding speaking altogether. The key here is to speak more freely, without worrying too much about making everything perfect. Focus on communicating your message, not on being grammatically flawless. With time and practice, fluency will improve naturally. 4. Different skills, different pathways. It's also important to understand that speaking and listening use different mental pathways. You might be very strong in your passive skills, like listening and reading, but weaker in your active skills, such as speaking and writing. This is normal. Understanding a language doesn't always mean you can immediately use it. Think of it like playing a musical instrument. You might understand music theory very well, but actually playing the instrument takes practice and muscle memory. Speaking English works the same way. You need to train your brain and your mouth to work together. This only happens through consistent, real speaking practice. So if you understand English well but can't speak it yet, don't be discouraged. It just means you need more practice with active use. Now that we've looked at why this happens, let's talk about what you can do to start speaking English confidently and naturally. Simple, practical tips to start speaking English. Here are a few powerful and practical tips you can start using today. Tip 1. Practice speaking every day, even if you're alone. You don't need a conversation partner to practice speaking. You can speak English out loud by yourself. This might feel strange at first, but it's incredibly effective. Try these activities. Describe what you're doing as you move through your day. Now, I'm brushing my teeth. I'm getting dressed. I'm going to the store. Talk about your plans, your goals, or what you did yesterday. Look at a picture and describe it in detail. The goal is to train your mouth and brain to produce English more naturally. Even 5 minutes a day can make a big difference. Tip 2. Use shadowing. Shadowing is a technique where you listen to a native speaker and repeat what they say immediately, like an echo. This helps improve your pronunciation, rhythm, and fluency. You can use a podcast, YouTube video, or audiobook. Play a sentence, pause, and then repeat it aloud. Try to match the speaker's tone, speed, and emotion. Shadowing helps you speak more naturally and confidently over time. Tip 3. Record yourself speaking. Recording your voice helps you hear your own mistakes and track your progress. Choose a topic, speak about it for 1 or 2 minutes, and record yourself. Later, listen to the recording and ask, "Did I speak clearly? Did I use correct grammar? Where can I improve?" This builds self-awareness and allows you to improve more quickly. Plus, you'll be surprised at how much you improve after just a few weeks of doing this regularly. Tip 4. Start with simple sentences. Many learners try to speak in complex sentences before they're ready. Instead, start simple. Use the words and grammar you already know. Even short, basic sentences are great practice. As your confidence grows, you can move on to more complex ideas. It's better to speak simply and clearly than to stay silent because you're trying to be perfect. Tip 5. Speak with others when you can. If possible, find someone to practice with. This could be a language exchange partner, an online tutor, a speaking club, a friend who's also learning. The more you speak with real people, the faster your confidence will grow. Don't worry about making mistakes. Just focus on connecting and communicating. And remember, the goal is progress, not perfection. Final thoughts. Let me say this again because it's so important. If you understand English but struggle to speak it, you are not failing. You are learning. You've already made incredible progress. And now, it's time to take the next step. Speaking is a skill you can build, just like reading or listening. Yes, it takes time. Yes, it takes practice. But with consistent effort, you will get better. The key is to practice speaking every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. Stop worrying about being perfect. Make mistakes, learn from them, and keep going. I believe in you. And I want you to believe in yourself. Start small, start today, say one sentence, then another, then a few more. Before you know it, speaking English will feel natural. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I hope you feel inspired and encouraged. If you found this helpful, share it with a friend or leave a review. And don't forget to subscribe for more episodes to help you grow in your English journey. Remember, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep going. Until next time, keep practicing, keep learning, and keep speaking. You've got this. It helps you connect your knowledge to action, builds confidence, allows you to think in English, improves fluency, enhances listening skills, and makes you a better communicator overall. If you want to become fluent in English, you have to prioritize speaking practice. But don't worry if it seems difficult at first. Just remember, the more you speak, the easier and more natural it will become. In the next section, we'll discuss practical strategies you can use to practice speaking regularly and make it a part of your routine. Overcoming the fear of speaking. One of the biggest barriers to speaking English is the fear of speaking. It's natural to feel nervous or anxious when speaking a new language, especially when you're afraid of making mistakes or being judged. However, fear should not stop you from practicing and improving your speaking skills. The truth is, every English learner goes through this stage, but it can be overcome. 1. Understand that fear is normal. First of all, you need to know that the fear you're experiencing is perfectly normal. Almost everyone who learns a second language feels the same way. Whether it's the fear of making mistakes, sounding strange, or being misunderstood, these feelings are part of the learning process. Even experienced language learners and sometimes native speakers feel anxious in certain situations. So instead of focusing on the fear, embrace it as a part of your journey. Recognize that it's a sign of growth. You're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, and this is how improvement happens. The fear you feel today is simply a sign that you're challenging yourself, which is a good thing. Every time you push through this fear, you'll get one step closer to fluency. 2. Shift your focus from perfection to progress. One of the reasons many people are afraid to speak English is because they want to speak perfectly. We all want to avoid mistakes, especially when we're speaking in front of others. But perfection is not the goal. The goal is progress. Instead of aiming to speak perfectly, focus on making progress. Speak as much as you can, even if you make mistakes. Mistakes are a natural part of the learning process, and they are essential for growth. When you allow yourself to make mistakes, you free yourself from the pressure of speaking perfectly, which in turn reduces your fear. Remember, no one speaks perfectly all the time, even in their native language. So allow yourself to make mistakes, learn from them, and keep moving forward. This shift in mindset will help you feel more comfortable when speaking. 3. Start small and build confidence slowly. The fear of speaking can be overwhelming if you try to take on too much at once. Instead of jumping into a full conversation with a native speaker right away, start small. Practice speaking in low-pressure situations. This will allow you to build your confidence gradually. You could start by speaking to yourself in English. For example, try describing what you're doing during the day, or talk to yourself about your thoughts and feelings. This helps you get used to hearing your own voice in English and makes speaking feel more natural. You can also practice with a friend or language partner who is supportive and understanding. If you're not comfortable speaking with a native speaker at first, practicing with someone at your level will help you feel more confident. Another great way to start is by repeating sentences or phrases you hear in movies, TV shows, or podcasts. This will help you practice the correct pronunciation and rhythm of the language, while also building your confidence as you hear yourself speaking. 4. Use positive affirmations. One of the most effective ways to overcome fear is to change your inner dialogue. Positive affirmations can be a powerful tool. Instead of focusing on the fear or thinking, "I can't speak English," try replacing those thoughts with positive statements like, "I am improving every day," or "It's okay to make mistakes." These affirmations will help shift your mindset from fear to confidence. You can repeat these affirmations in the morning or before speaking practice sessions. It will train your mind to see speaking English as an opportunity to grow, not a task to be feared. The more you believe in your ability to improve, the less fear you'll feel. 5. Practice speaking in safe environments. If you're feeling nervous about speaking in front of others, start practicing in safe environments where you won't feel judged. This could be in front of a mirror, with a language partner, or by recording yourself speaking. Listening to recordings of yourself will allow you to notice areas where you can improve without the pressure of others listening. You could also consider joining a group of learners who are at the same level as you. In these groups, you can share your fears and struggles with others who understand what you're going through. This creates a supportive environment where everyone is there to learn together and help each other. 6. Learn from feedback, not criticism. Sometimes fear of speaking comes from the fear of criticism. We worry about what others will think of us if we make mistakes, but instead of fearing criticism, embrace feedback as a tool for improvement. When you get feedback, don't see it as a judgment, but as an opportunity to get better. Listen to the feedback with an open mind and use it to improve your speaking. If someone corrects your grammar or pronunciation, see it as a learning opportunity, not as a reason to feel ashamed or discouraged. Feedback is a gift, and it can help you make progress faster. 7. Create a routine for regular speaking practice. Fear often arises from uncertainty. If you're not practicing regularly, you might feel unprepared and anxious when it's time to speak. However, when you practice regularly, you'll feel more confident in your abilities because you'll be used to speaking. Create a speaking practice routine that you follow every day or several times a week. This will give you the opportunity to improve your speaking skills gradually and naturally. By setting aside time each day to speak, you will not only reduce your fear but also become more comfortable with using English. Regular practice allows you to track your progress, and over time, you'll see how much you've improved. 8. Remind yourself of the bigger picture. Sometimes, fear of speaking comes from the idea that we're not good enough to speak English yet. It's important to remind yourself that language learning is a journey, and you're already on the right path. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep practicing. Think about why you're learning English in the first place: to open up opportunities, communicate with people around the world, and improve your personal and professional life. When you remember your reasons for learning English, the fear of speaking starts to feel smaller. You're doing this for yourself, and the fear will only hold you back. Push through it, and remind yourself that speaking English will open doors for you that are worth facing your fear. Overcoming the fear of speaking English is something every learner goes through. But with time and consistent practice, it becomes easier. By understanding that fear is normal, focusing on progress instead of perfection, starting small, using positive affirmations, and creating a supportive environment for speaking, you can overcome your fear and become a more confident English speaker. Remember, speaking is not just about saying the right words. It's about practicing, improving, and enjoying the process of becoming fluent. Keep going and don't let fear hold you back. When you come across a new word or phrase, write it down and try to use it in your own sentences. Practice using these new expressions when speaking to make them a natural part of your vocabulary.